This episode of the All About Nothing podcast is sponsored by listeners like you and Big Media LLC, encouraging you to check your voter registration. In a world where every voice counts, ensuring your registration is accurate and up to date is the simplest, most effective way to guarantee your vote is heard. Don't leave your participation to chance. Take a moment today and verify your status and stay ready for the next election by visiting theallaboutnothing.com/voter.
Hey, it's Zach from What the Pod Was That and the All About Nothing podcast. And America's birthday is coming up faster than we can track. Celebrate Independence Day in style with ZJZ Designs' latest t-shirt collection on TeePublic. Introducing 3 brand new 4th of July heart designs that perfectly capture the spirit of America. These shirts feature vibrant, patriotic colors and unique heart-shaped designs that stand out at any celebration. Whether you're heading to a fireworks show, a barbecue, or just enjoying the summer sun, our 4th of July heart collection has something for everyone. Show off your love for the red, white, and blue with ZJZ Design. Visit ZJZ Design's TeePublic shop today and get ready to shine this Independence Day. Links in the show notes or visit ZJZDesigns.com and check out all the great designs. New designs come up often. ZJZDesigns.com.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 314. I am Barrett Gruber. Follow me across all social media at Barrett Gruber. Please subscribe and share the show. That's how we get new listeners. Also, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting theallaboutnothing.com and becoming an official member and proudly calling yourself a true Nothinger. We'll have more details on that at the end of the show. If you can't do that, please give us a 5-star review, a like, follow us wherever you're watching or listening, and you can find links at theallaboutnothing.com. Before we get started today's episode, a quick thank you to Shelby Spencer and O'Shawn McClendon Jr. for joining us for episode 313. It's always great to have both of them on, and I'm sure that we will have them back soon. This week, my guest is South Carolina's House District 89 nominee for the Democratic Party, covering West Columbia, Casey, Springdale. It has been a Republican stronghold for about 25 years or more, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's been a Republican in there for at least 20 years. That's as far back as I could research it. Yeah.
So Joe Madge is here with us. He is an electrical engineer with over 30 years in manufacturing quality and process management, a former chair of the Lexington County Democratic Party, and a 2018 James Clyburn Fellow. Grew up in a blended family in upstate New York, worked his way through the University of Pennsylvania as a class valedictorian, and eventually landed in South Carolina in 1993 when your employer relocated. Same way, that's how I got here.
Yeah, right. It's a common story.
Yeah. Spent years since building a life and now a campaign in Lexington County. He is running as a self-described pragmatic progressive focused on breaking the state house supermajority and bringing an engineer's problem-solving approach to public education, infrastructure, healthcare costs, and the economy. Joe Madge, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Yeah, thanks.
Good to have you
I guess I can go now. You covered it all.
I was going to say that was. I generally have AI help me out with some of that, and I no data centers, but I do have AI help me out with writing some of these.
Appreciate it.
So, how's the campaign going so far?
It's going good. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where we're at. If we look at the last time we had a candidate run was in 2024. It was Wayne Borders ran, so he got about 40% of the vote in that election. And if we look at the results from the primary this year in District 89, it was like 44% Democrat. So I think it's 45 is probably kind of where our base is at 45%, and then so we just need to move it a couple of points here and there, and so how do you do that, right? You got to put in the work, and so that's what we're doing. We're putting in the work. We've raised over $12,000 so far, and we've been focused early on with knocking on doors. So we've been doing a lot of door knocks. So we've knocked on the doors of over 1,700 people so far. We plan to get around 10,000, knock on the doors of 10,000 people by November. So and then we'll do more stuff as well. But that's kind of been the focus, and we're just kind of getting things moving along. But it's going good.
Does 10,000 doors feel attainable?
It does, yes, yeah. Based on things we've done in the past. So so we've volunteered on. And I say we, I'm talking about myself and my wife here, but we've got a lot of experience with knocking on doors, canvassing, and we got a group of volunteers who really like to do it. So, so we do believe it's attainable, we'll get there by Election Day for sure.
I just say, if anything, I think the weather's only really been hot up until today. But today, So how much time do you spend during the day able to be out there canvassing?
Well, this past week, I've been home on vacation from work because the plant's been shut down where I work. So we've been doing we have had to adjust because of the heat. We were planning on 2-hour shifts, so like a 2-hour shift in the morning and a 2-hour shift in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, well, we can only do like 1 hour out there. And then we're like, okay, we can't really do these afternoons because the afternoon's just been, crazy. So we're kind of down to 1.5 hour shifts in the mornings. So we kind of had to scale back a little bit, but by the fall, we'll pick it up and add more longer shifts. And
1,000 people, or at least 1,000 doors. I have to imagine you've heard a lot of different stories about what people are expecting.
Yeah. So, one of the common things is we hear a lot is I've never had anybody a politician knock on my door before.
Sure.
So that so that's a good positive. But in general, the things that we hear is kind of the things that are on my platform. But you hear about education a lot. We hear about infrastructure, kind of roads and public safety kind of issues. So those are some of the common things we hear from folks.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like Mayor Tim Miles has taken away some of your thunder when it comes to infrastructure in West Columbia?
Not so much. No. Haven't really heard much. Many people talking about the mayor.
He significantly has at least beautified a lot of, if that can be a word that I can use, but the West Columbia area. That's been a lot of his mission while he's been mayor.
Yeah.
And I certainly, I have recognized it, and I certainly have recognized how much further that's extending down the way. But West Columbia, Casey, I mean, this is an area that I drive through a lot.
Right.
I have my dentist is in Casey, and I look at how awful some of the roads are.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
It's not through the 20 or 25 years that this particular Republican Party has been in control of this area, which it still seems odd to me that area has elected a Republican so often, because it feels very the demographics of the area feel as far as race, color, creed, religion, it's all over the place.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I think we really have a chance this year, because the districts has been changing. We've got more people coming in. We do have a lot of students in there too. But if you look at the representation we've had, they are not evolving with the district. Yeah, I mean, if anything, the representative who's in there right now, he's getting more and more right leaning. And he needs. He actually kind of started out or kind of fancied himself as a moderate, 10 years ago.
Sure.
But really, he's been tacking more and more to the right. So he's really not. He's not moderate anymore.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that as a candidate, you're able to take a look back and really, I want to say, crucify some of these candidates on what they've done over the course of their tenure.
Right.
And for West Columbia, for District 89, I can't see a whole lot that's been done. In fact, I think I recall there were a number of no votes for him over the course of the last 2 sessions.
Yes.
On votes that it felt were, I want to say that it wasn't coincidental that he missed out on them.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I get the same impression as well. And we can look at the redistricting push that they had when they did the special session for the redistricting. While they were in the middle of debate, then the Rules Committee went in and changed the rules, right? Right in the middle of all that. And, and Mike Akaski is the guy who's in there. He's the chair of the Rules Committee. So he was the one who pushed through the rules change so that they could get the redistricting bill passed.
Yeah.
Right. But when it came to a vote for the bill, he just voted present. Right. So like a real profile in courage there, right?
Right,
Yeah. So again, I think he's trying to walk that line. Oh yeah, I didn't vote for that bill, but you knew that bill was going to pass because you actually set it up to pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a household that relied on food stamps,
Right.
Free lunch.
Right.
That is one of the things that South Carolina, not every public school in the state of South Carolina has as well. I want to say the South Carolina Lexington District 2 also does not have many schools that have free lunches, free breakfast for students.
Right.
What are you hearing from some of the constituents that you have knocked on their doors already as far as like, what is their feeling on that?
Yeah, I haven't heard specifically from people that we've knocked on their doors, but there was a bill that it was in the state Senate to provide breakfast for poor children, in the state, and the Republicans. There was I can't remember who it was, but he was like, "Well, I can feed my kids," and so it was like, okay, you're against feeding, poor kids. I think you've kind of lost the plot, and because again, that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because as you mentioned, I benefited from some government programs when I was younger, and even when I went to college, I helped pay for college with Pell Grants and guaranteed student loans. So I've kind of seen what good government can do. I mean, it's really helped me out in my life, and enabled me to kind of move up the socioeconomic ladder.
Yeah.
And so so I see what good government can do, but I'm not really seeing that coming from our state house right now.
Yeah. I think one of the arguments that I always pose when I hear somebody that is against or that they don't believe that the schools should have the money to be able to do it is, there are always going to be people that fall below the line.
Right.
Every school is going to have, or every public school is going to have them. Even some charter schools and private schools are going to have students there that were, I want to say, gifted in, maybe publicly. But there is every prison, every jail provides meals for the inmates, and I find it difficult to argue against feeding every child.
Right. Yeah.
It just seems absurd to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand the argument against it.
So you went from upstate New York farmhouse to valedictorian to Penn.
Right.
And then manufacturing career in South Carolina. What was the transition like, and what made Lexington County home?
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. When I moved here, this was back in 1993. It was like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I was looking around, I was like, okay, this state could be, a model there for the other states in the country. There's so much potential here. You could, you have, low taxes, good jobs. It's like if they just invested in their infrastructure and their education program, it said it could be a model for for other states. And unfortunately, 30 years later, you can still say those same things. Like, but I grew up north of Syracuse, and so we got over 10 feet of snow every year. I've seen temperatures 40 below zero, and I do not miss that. So for me, the transition here was like, okay, you get the hot weather, but it's I'll take that any day over the snow. Yeah. And when I first moved, I was working for a company that had 2 factories in New York and 1 in South Carolina. So they closed the 2 plants in New York and consolidated everything in South Carolina. So I moved down with them, but that was up in Spartanburg.
Okay.
So that's where I first moved to, and that's where I met my wife pretty much immediately upon moving to South Carolina. And then, so I was there for a couple of years, and then she was finishing up her teaching degree and got a teaching job here in Lexington County. So that's when we moved to Lexington in 1996. And we've been here since, 96 is when we moved here, and pretty much have been here the whole time. And with the exception of 3 years, we lived out of the country, lived in Mexico, and from 2003 to 2006. But pretty much Lexington County's been our home for a long time. It's kind of surprising when we look back, like, holy cow, we've been here this long.
Oh yeah.
But we lived in the town of Lexington for 17 years. And then we've recently, 4 years ago, we've moved to West Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I know you're off camera. What school were you teaching at?
I taught in Lexington District 1 and Lexington District 2.
Okay.
Over the course of it.
Okay.
I taught everything from kindergarten to
Okay. Do you know Sarah Jane Byers, Jay Byers? They were at, I want to say, Brooklyn Casey. Okay. All right. Sarah Jane taught sex ed. So.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying, though, because I moved here in 2001, and I look back and 25 years of living here literally in this neighborhood, in this house, and I've seen the changes that have occurred.
Yeah.
And the diversity that has come into even just my neighborhood has been fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
I have absolutely fantastic neighbors that will do anything to take care of you. I talk about this on the podcast before, but I literally have a chain link fence in my backyard and not a privacy fence because I want my good neighbors to be able to see in my backyard if something goes down.
Yeah.
So it's, I think South Carolina absolutely is moving here was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I love living here. I am continuing to not be a super fan of the way that the state government runs.
Yeah.
Because I think that they continue to focus on the things that are not that important.
Yes.
That affect less than 3% of the population.
Right. Exactly.
So
I think they're spending a lot of time on issues that aren't really going to be that impactful for the majority of folks, and can actually make our lives better. That's that's really what we should be focusing on as government. That's what I would like to do when I get in the state house.
Yeah. 2016 was pretty much when you became more involved in politics. What was that moment for you?
Yes, it was the 2016 election, so the presidential election when Trump got elected the first time. Because I always thought, okay, we'll just you read up on the candidates, you vote, and that you've done your civic duty. And then after that election, I was like, oh, okay, I need to do more. Need to get a little more involved. And we searched around, tried to find other organizations, and we went to some meetings, and kind of came to the conclusion that really the only way forward is to change things, through the electoral process, and the Democratic Party is really the best method, the best way I see to do that. So I really got involved with the Democratic Party, starting with our county party, and then running for chair in 2018 and getting elected. And I served as chair for 4 years, and then kind of worked my way out. I was a first vice chair for a year, and then a second vice chair. So I'm not in any kind of leadership this year. Yeah,
I find that a lot of people that are involved now, or are involved more heavily now, the ones that are running for campaigns, they usually say that 2016 was sort of the catalyst that pushed them over the edge.
Right.
One of the questions that I like to ask them sometimes is, at any point after Trump was elected in 2016, did you consider, all right, I'm going to give this guy a chance. Let's just see how this goes. Because ultimately, I can tell you, I said that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I canvassed for Hillary.
Right.
I canvassed for Bernie before that.
Yeah.
And so when Trump was elected, I said, okay, let's just see. And then, of course, on day 2, he issued a travel ban to 9 Muslim nations. And I was like, well,
okay. Yeah. I never even really got to that point, like you said, because he from the very beginning, he just didn't. The main thing for me is that first go around is that he just really wasn't very competent. He still isn't very competent. No. But I mean, that was the main thing, is that he wasn't really able to accomplish very much. And to be honest with you, I was thinking he was going to get reelected because he didn't really do much, didn't really accomplish much. And he stirred things up a little bit, but I was like, okay, well, people are just going to be like, well, why rock the boat? And it was really only because of the pandemic, and then people saw how incompetent he and his administration were.
Yeah.
I think that was the main thing that, why he didn't get reelected.
I think one of my big concerns in 2020 was that the handling of COVID wasn't going to be enough to not get him elected. I was afraid that because they were pushing through so quickly on that vaccine and he was taking credit for that,
right.
which, by the way, he is absolutely in no way, shape, or engineer, a medical engineer that could ever potentially come on,
Yeah.
But the whole science behind, using the mRNA to transmit how our DNA or how our bodies recognize these viruses was just unbelievable.
Right.
And the fact that, from this point on, we can attack viruses in a much more intelligent way without actually feeding ourselves the actual vaccine in small doses.
Right. Yeah. And it looks like there's a lot of promise with that mRNA technology for like cancers and things like that. Yeah. So
I'm really hoping for obesity is the but it's but that was the thing is I was afraid that how as poorly as the pandemic was handled by the Trump administration with all of the tools that Obama had handed over to them and they just dismissed,
threw away.
That I was afraid that somehow people were going to look at that as a strength. And thankfully, I think common sense prevailed.
Exactly.
And, people recognized, fingers crossed 2028, common sense prevails again.
Right.
So District 89 has been Republican held for at least 25 years. What made you decide this was the year that you wanted to unseat the gentleman?
Yeah, well, the main reason really, I mean, I got tired of, being mad, yelling at the TV and, throwing my phone, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, let's see if we can actually change something. I'm not the perfect candidate. When we were thinking about, okay, should I run or not? I'm like, okay, well, hopefully there's somebody out there who's really dying to do it. And nobody really came forward. So I was like, okay, I've been around politics. I've never actually run a campaign myself. So, let's give it a shot and see what we can do. So, but yeah, it's mainly just, just tired of being mad at the government. No, I don't. Which shouldn't be, really, the government should just kind of be in the background. We shouldn't have to worry about it, but, especially if you look at our state legislature, the things that they were focused on this year is just, it's just been terrible.
Yeah, no, I fully believe that if you're yelling into the void, then at least have a microphone and have 3 minutes on the floor to do it.
Right, there you go.
But yeah, I kudos to you and Jeremy and Zion and just everybody that decided that this was the year they were going to run because this is the first time in I think South Carolina's history that there are challengers to every single seat, and some of those seats aren't even being challenged by Republicans. So are Democrats the Democrats that are already the presumptive winner.
Right. Yeah. I've been to some trainings with the South Carolina Democratic Party, and have met some of these candidates, and some of them are running in seats where there has not been a Democrat for 20, 30 years, which is just crazy. Yeah. And so, the only way we can change things is if we have candidates out there. And even if it's an 80-20 Republican or 70-30 Republican district, getting people out there, having somebody to vote for, it increases voter turnout. So, and then that helps the people at the top of the ticket, the statewide people, the governor and, superintendent of education and things like that. So just having people running in all those races is going to help statewide.
I think sometimes just recognizing the names on the ballot versus actually recognize them as somebody you've met or someone that you know from your neighborhood or, your wife was a teacher to one of their students or something like, that's, she knows. But it's crazy to me how much easier it is to get people out to the polls when there is even a degree of recognition of who that person is.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the canvassing that we did for Matt Villardeau up in Rock Hill when I was running his campaign was, I say Rock Hill, Fort Mill. They're close to the same place.
Right. Yeah.
But it wasn't even necessarily that I was trying to convince anyone to vote for Matt. It was just show up and vote.
Right, exactly.
This is when the election is. This is when early voting starts and things like that.
Yeah.
How much are you actually able to talk to people about your particular grievances with the state or what how you intend on fixing them?
Right. A lot of it right now is with the door knocking, but I'm just kind of going to any event that I can go to and talk to folks that way. We're doing a little thing we're calling a cup of Joe with Joe. So we do that a couple times a month at a local coffee shop where just people can just drop in and get to meet me, talk to me. So we have it's not a huge turnout, but it's 10, 15 people every time, so and a lot of them are new people. So it's just a good way to meet folks. And then when you're actually out in the neighborhoods, I mean, it's just great exposure as a candidate. You just see all the different neighborhoods, and you can kind of see everything from the condition of the roads to there's we were in a place, there's just an abandoned factory right there in the neighborhood, and I was like, man, that would be some good place for some small houses, some affordable housing. If we could figure out a way to how do you do that from the legislature? I think we have to somehow incentivize the owners of those properties to either sell them or convert them to housing or things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to work on in the State House.
Yeah. Affordability in South Carolina obviously is, when I moved here, it was cheap. I think the median home value then in 2001 was somewhere around 128,000 or 150,000.
Yeah.
Right now, we've seen that almost double, making it very difficult. We have a huge student population in West Columbia and Casey, and that, ultimately, I think for the economy of South Carolina, we'd like to see them stay here.
Yeah.
But housing obviously is very difficult to. I think one of the things that I keep hearing as an idea is somehow blocking out these private equity groups to, do you have any, has there been any discussion about that with anyone?
Yeah, I mean, not so much discussions, but I'm definitely in support of that. Our daughter lives in Boston, and she pays some pretty expensive rent, and we've been talking to some folks who just live in West Columbia, and their rent is not that much different. So it's definitely gone up a lot, and so it used to be a lot more affordable. So I think we need to be creative and look at all different ways that we can do things to reduce those housing costs. Like I said, if there's ways we can find to just make more, smaller kind of affordable houses. Maybe we can put some limits on how much landlords can increase, rent on a year by year basis, things like that. Just try to control it some. So but I'm willing to listen to anybody and any good ideas.
West Columbia has fantastic businesses, local small businesses, things like that. What do you see as far as trying to increase or bring more, having small businesses in West Columbia?
Right. Yeah. So,
Casey, Springdale as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, one of the biggest impacts, on small businesses, especially, bars and restaurants, has been their liquor liability. So, that's something that the State House has, directly impacted. Some of the rules that they've implemented. It just, they've actually priced some businesses just completely out of business. So there's a lot of places that have closed because they can't afford that liquor liability. So I think that's a big thing that we need to do to help the restaurant industry. But again, for me, I think we see properties that are just sitting vacant that would be great, just on, some of the main streets that would be good for businesses. And so we have to figure out, so I'm trying to think about more incentivizing. So if we can incentivize the owners to do things as opposed to penalizing them, so that's kind of where I'd like to come at it from, is if we can try to incentivize folks to, make those businesses or those buildings available for small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What does District 89, the West Columbia, Casey, Springdale, look like today that maybe outsiders don't realize how it's changed or what changes could come?
Right. Yeah. So mean, there, and when we do talk to folks on their doors, there's a large amount of them just say, yeah, things are going good. So I mean, it's not a terrible place to live. And you can always improve things. We're happy living in the town of West Columbia. They do great things with, like your yard waste, for example. It's like I'm always working in the yard, and you always got a pile of stuff that you just put it out to the street, and then they come by and pick it up every week.
Your water's a third the price of mine.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
It comes from the same place.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, I kind of lost my train of thought there. What was the specific question? Yeah,
what outsiders see different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there really are. They're good places to live and to raise a family. And, we've seen increases in the population. I think West Columbia's grown like 6% or something in recent years. But it's just, we do need to make sure that we're keeping up with all the infrastructure to keep pace with that growth, and we do see the roads, there are a lot of roads that are full of potholes, and we do see like they do like a little temporary patch, and then a couple of weeks later, then the pothole's still there. So then there's things like that we can improve on, but really, in general, it's a good place to live and raise a family.
Oh, I absolutely. I think when I don't require the space of the house that I live in, I'd love to live in the avenues.
Right, yeah. That's where we are right now. Yeah.
But the cost of those houses.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We're talking 1,200 square foot house that is worth twice what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Because we're living in a house that my mom purchased 15 years ago. Yeah. And it's night and day between when she first bought it and what it is now.
Yeah. It's great for the homeowner. That's
right.
Well, as long as the taxes don't, skyrocket too.
Yeah.
Your platform centers heavily on breaking up the supermajority. For voters unfamiliar with state house dynamics, why does that structural issue matter more than any single bill?
Yeah. So, so the supermajority is, the Republicans have more than 60% of the seats in the state house and in the state Senate, for that matter. And so they don't need to debate. They don't need to compromise. They pretty much can just, anything they want to pass, they can pass it. The only thing that really slows them down is sometimes within their own party, they have folks that disagree, right? But
they're fantastic at that.
Yeah, but if you look at our U.S. Constitution, it's based on checks and balances. That's the way the founders set it up. It was meant to be having debate and discussing issues and compromise, and working together. So that's to me, that's the most important thing that's lacking right now. We just do not have that discussion, debate, and compromise. So if you look statewide, we're probably say 60% Republican, 40% Democrat. But the Republicans shouldn't get 100% of the agenda and 100% of all the bills, right? It should be, okay, they can get 60%, and there should be some give and take, to get some of the Democratic initiatives in as well. So that, for me, that's the most important thing, because I'd love to make a bunch of campaign promises that, okay, we're going to do all these things, if I'm elected. But reality is that we have to take it kind of step by step. And if we can just get enough Democrats elected this year, and I think it's only 7 or 8 Democrats in the state house, we can flip 7 or 8 seats, then there's no longer a supermajority. And then, the Democrats really have a little bit more of a voice, and again, a little more compromise. So that's so it's we have to kind of take it step by step. So if we can just get to a regular, majority for the Republicans, minority for the Democrats, and then, we just keep chipping away at it until we can finally get a Democratic majority. And then we can, kind of drive the agenda.
It's being able to have an impact on the bills, because what's happening now is that for the most part, it seems like just coming out of committee, it's almost a done deal. There's no debate about them. There's no amendments to any of these bills. They pretty much just get to fly through,
right? Unless,
like you said, you have the Freedom Caucus versus the Firmament Caucus versus the whoever, insert crazy theory, and ultimately they're the reason that their bills don't get passed. Which to me is crazy, because
I know.
Every time Masters would talk about a bill, he's like, "I'll sign it as soon as it comes over."
Yeah. Right.
Whatever. I don't even have to read it anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the work that the Democrats can do or have to do is just to make those bills less bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. So you have to just kind of work, try to get an amendment in, try to reduce some harm. That's about the best we can do right now.
Yeah. One of the things that, and I still find shocking because I don't understand how someone can think that they can do away with taxes and somehow think that things are still going to be paid for.
Right. Yes.
I mean, unless the hope is that we just become a bigger welfare state. But, we have Alan Wilson now as a governor nominee for Republican Party who is promising that, or at least who is saying that he is going to do away with state income taxes.
Right.
Obviously, that's insane. I realize that they do it in Florida, but Florida also makes $600 billion a year.
Just huge.
In tourism and drugs.
Yeah. Well, just talking about that, I mean, to me, it's a good talking point for the Republicans, right? Oh yeah, elect us and we'll get rid of your state income taxes. Okay, well, you've been in charge for 20 years, so if it was such a good idea, why haven't you done it already? And so to me, that it just shows you it's just a talking point. I know, and there are some hangups in the budget right now, which, as far as I know, it still has not been approved. And that's one of the things they're talking about is they're trying to cut some state income taxes and then offset it some other way. But it's like, you're either going to have to cut some programs, right, or you got to make that money up somewhere else. And I haven't heard exactly where they're going to make that money up. It's just it's a big part of the state budget, So it's just, again, to me, it's just a talking point for them.
So how do you I think it's pretty easy, but tell me how you transition from an electrical engineer who is basically an engineer, is just somebody that fixes that makes that comes up with the best way to fix things,
right?
And then applies that pragmatic, progressive,
right?
How do those two align?
Right. So so what is it that engineers do, right? And I always try to explain, I can give you real technical stuff, but basically what you do as an engineer is you solve problems, whatever it is. There's just different kinds of problems you have to solve every day. And there's a methodology for that, but, it usually starts with gathering data and evidence and things like that. And then coming up with a theory, testing it out, and then implementing it. And, so that's the kind of same approach I want to take to the government. It just, so I'll work with anybody who wants to actually solve a problem,
right?
As long as, I said, we're actually dealing with facts and data.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how I would like to transition that engineer approach over to the State House. And it's not about ideology. It's just like, okay, what can we get done, right?
Yeah.
You can stake out, this a hardline position and say, okay, it's this or nothing. Well, then a lot of times you're going to get nothing, right? So we have to kind of work our way there. At least that's the way I see it.
No, and I agree completely.
Yeah.
I think that because in my career I've done quality assurance engineering,
right?
And it's not quite the same as fixing things. But it's figuring out how to break them again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, the other part too, especially on the quality side, is you have to be proactive, right? You have to say, okay, if we do this thing, here's the consequences. And for whatever reason, as a country, we don't seem to do that.
No.
We say, you can say, well, if you pass that bill, this thing's going to happen. And we're like, okay, well, let's wait for the bad thing to happen and then come back and correct the bill. But again, that's another, just a mindset that I would like to bring to government. Is just, okay, let's try to anticipate what could go wrong here if we do this or if we don't do anything.
Yeah. I don't think that there's enough people in the State House right now, or even some of them that are running that give a lot of conscious thought to the effect of the things that they are trying to push through currently.
Right.
It's it's just crazy.
Yes.
Education's one of them.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I think that I am seeing more and more people push back, especially as things are becoming more expensive. There are people in this neighborhood that have kids that have been going to a couple of the charter schools that are around here. They have not been able to, even with a voucher, cannot afford these charter schools or private schools anymore. Yeah. So they're sending their kids back to public school.
Yeah.
And then the loopholes that the school districts are having to go through in order to say, okay, that student's coming back here for this upcoming term. We have 30 more just like them. We need all of that money back in our budget
Right.
to do it. And
Yeah.
the state is fighting them on it currently.
Yeah.
That to me is insane.
Yeah,
Because if
makes
they
no
were
sense.
just people
Yeah.
moving into the area, then the state would allocate it back.
Right.
But it's, I think they love handing money over to, these, and I don't have any issue with people that their kids go to charter schools.
No.
It's not an issue at all.
Right.
But I don't want to pay for somebody's
Exactly.
student to go to school.
Shouldn't be our taxpayer dollars paying for it. Yeah. I agree completely. Yeah.
So, and my kids are homeschooled, so I'm still paying taxes and not
Right.
using that money.
Yeah. Right. But again, we get the benefit as a society, right? That, that the kids are educated and they can get good jobs. I mean, that's the whole concept that,
I think
we should be okay with that.
I think the only hang up that I would probably be okay with is if charter schools are receiving public funding, that those charter schools should be subject to the state level of as far as the class, testing scores and things like that.
Yeah, they in my opinion, they should meet the same requirements, the same rules that all the public schools have, and including who they accept, which the public schools have to accept everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then everything from we were talking the other day about school buses, right? So public schools provide school buses. And we say, okay, yeah, so, this charter school, anybody, can go to this public charter school, except we're not going to provide school buses, so not everybody can go to those, so, so again, that just, to me, as long as, they meet the same rules and regulations.
Heathwood isn't in your district, is it?
It is not, no.
I was going to say, it must be just outside.
Yeah, it's a little.
Just outside.
A little closer to Richland County, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your platform ties public education to workforce readiness.
Right.
As a electrical engineer, that does require schooling. My son currently is in school to be a welder, and doing very well at it. What is one of the things that coming from New York and the education system there to South Carolina? Do you think that we have a strong platform for technical schools and things like that?
Yeah, I do think we do. So my entire career, I worked in manufacturing, and I worked in several different industries, and we have constantly struggled with just keeping up with the pace of keeping people hired and getting them trained, and then getting them proficient in the job. And it's a constant churn because there's just a lot of folks who just aren't prepared to work in a factory. And if you look at the technology, it just keeps changing, and so now if you just want to be a machine operator, it's still very technical. There's a lot of stuff you need to be able to do. You need to be able to do some basic troubleshooting. So that's where I think we do have technical schools, and even at the high school level, there's good opportunities there, but it's not the same in every school district. So I think we need to provide those same opportunities for every school district. But the other part I think is I would like to see if we could change some of the curriculum for those folks who know they're going to go into a trade, or they're not going on the college prep path. Maybe their English class would be how to write a business plan, because a lot of folks, they end up being, their own business owner, even if they're going to be a plumber, a lot of plumbers own their own plumbing business, right? So, so how do you write a business plan to get a loan to start your company? On the math side, maybe how do you do prepare a quotation for work? How do you balance your budget? So I think that might help some of those kids that we kind of lose along the way, that they're not going to go down the college prep course, but then they still need to do their English requirements and their math requirements, and so a lot of those kids they end up dropping out. So if we could keep them in school so they could finish whatever path they're going on, but I think every child should have a path to success in South Carolina, in our public education system. That's what I would like to see. Yeah,
absolutely agree. You've mentioned malfunction junction and autonomous vehicles.
Right.
We don't yet have, what is it, Waymo?
Right.
Is that
that's one of them. Yeah.
What, I guess, how can we as and let's focus just on West Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia, what is it that we need to be able to do to be prepared for it? Because it's going to be here.
Right.
Nashville just got it. So
So, because when I was working on my platform, I wanted to talk about public transportation, because I think we need more, and if we had more public transportation, less cars on the road, less traffic, that would help. I mentioned our daughter lives in Boston, but when we go to visit her, we don't rent a car. We just take public transportation. It's really easy to get around. The company I work for, it's based in Hanover, Germany. Anytime I go there, I don't have to rent a car. I can walk and get on a train and take the train out to the plant. It's real easy. And so I was thinking, so we need to have a better public transportation, some kind of a rail system. But so the technology is really coming now with the autonomous vehicles, and some of the concepts are, you just have the driverless cars, and they make a circuit around the cities or whatever they're waiting, and then you call them on your phone and say, okay, I need a ride to get over here, and you hop in one of those vehicles and it takes you there. So anyways, I think we need to look at all those different options, and are those autonomous vehicles, are they going to be really ready in a few years, or is it still 20 years out? And then maybe we need to focus more on some kind of the traditional kind of rail or subway or something like that.
Yeah, I still have a genuine fear.
I know. Yeah.
Because I'm not good at sitting as a passenger. So if I do, I have to sit in the back seat. Otherwise, everyone's going to see how
you're putting your foot through the floor.
I'm not in control.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You support the Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that I hear most Democrats are in favor of.
Right.
And I try to take a look at it from what is the benefit for state of South Carolina Republicans to continue to deny the citizens of South Carolina Medicaid expansion, because some of the things that this affects, rural hospitals, and we're going to have rural hospitals that are closing now.
Right.
Living in and around West Columbia and Casey and Springdale, it's not a huge issue when it comes to the availability of clinics, but it is a cost.
Right.
And Medicaid expansion would help to cover some of those expenses that people are taking and continuing to take on now, more and more and more.
Right.
And with the threat of having our, people that currently have Medicaid losing that because of the necessary work hours that they're going to have to meet after January 1st, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. This is, the likelihood is we're going to reach a critical ejection point where people are, one of the reasons that the Roosevelt administration came up with Social Security was because we had elderly people dying in the streets.
Right. Yeah.
And not having available Medicaid for people, we're going to be putting ourselves through the exact same thing.
Right. And, because, some of the argument is that, well, I don't meet the requirements to get Medicaid, so why should I support it? Right. But we all do better when we have the Medicaid expansion, because right now, for those of us who are paying for insurance, we're paying for those folks, because they're still getting sick, they're still going to the hospitals, but they're usually going to the emergency rooms, and those costs get passed on to those of us who do have insurance, or just pay it out of our pockets. So we all benefit if we do that Medicaid expansion. And to me, I think that's just step one, because that's going to affect a large group of folks, but there's still some people who are not going to have any kind of insurance. And so we should look at, can we have a state plan that, so we could cover 100% of the people, so everybody has at least some form of health insurance, at least cover major medical things like that. Because again, it'll make our healthcare costs more affordable for everybody. That's the whole idea. To help the affordability.
I think one of the things that people forget is that even Medicare, Medicaid, both of them have an administrative cost that is less than 1%.
Right.
Like, it is almost the most efficient way. Does it cover everything? Is it great? No, but
No,
But
it's not perfect.
part of the problem is the pool of the number of people that are using it. There isn't enough urgency to try and make the fixes to it.
Yeah.
If South Carolina were to be, I mean, your daughter lives in Boston.
Right.
Massachusetts was one of the states under Governor Romney.
Yeah. Right.
That almost that basically instituted a state healthcare system.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that, and that is one of the biggest differences between what I consider to be a Republican statesman and a GOP member under the Trump wing of the Republican Party is just. But I mean, South Carolina, the amount of money the federal government under Biden tried to give us, the amount of money that under Obama tried to give the state would easily fund a state healthcare system for the 6.5-7 million people that live in the state, almost. And of course, it doesn't have to be something that is enforced. It's not something that you have to have. You can still have your private insurance if you want it.
Sure.
But to have the availability,
have the option, right,
and then you force the other insurance companies in the state to compete with it.
Exactly, that's the whole idea.
That's capitalism,
right? Yeah.
why are more Republicans not on board? Healthcare capitalism.
Yeah, but medical costs, I think, is the top reason for people in South Carolina going into bankruptcy. And again, it's like, we're the richest country in the world. Is like, why are people going bankrupt because they got sick? It just doesn't make sense to me.
The excuse that I'm not using it, no one else should, is one of those ones that I cannot get past. When I hear someone say that, it racks my brain because I'm like, in my head, I have to imagine they know someone that is.
Right. Yeah.
Even if it's just somebody that's employed. Walmart is a huge employer in the state of South Carolina. And 63% of the people that work from Walmart are receiving social benefits because they don't make enough money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. You want to grow the economy from the middle out and bottom up while also expanding clean energy manufacturing.
Yes.
How do these two goals work together in a district built on traditional manufacturing?
I don't really have a good answer for that. I think we need to raise the minimum wage. I mean, that's kind of one of the first things. Again, looking at the cost of living, right? So you can reduce costs, or you can increase people's income. So I think increasing the minimum wage. Plenty of other states have done it. You can look at the data, right? Look at the facts, and because that's some of the argument. If we do this, then we're going to kill all these small businesses and stuff. And so you can study how the other states have done it and what the results were, and then you could say, okay, we'll do it this way to avoid some of the problems some of the other states may have. But I haven't really heard any issues from like Massachusetts is the example that we were familiar with, but their minimum wage I think is $15 an hour or something like that. So it's there's still plenty of people working in McDonald's and those kinds of things. So that's kind of the first step, I think. Again, what can we do at the state house level, and that's one we can do for sure. But again, I'm open for any ideas. Working with anybody who's got some concepts on how to do it.
I think the state, the amount of money in taxes that we subsidize some of these big corporations offer to some of the small businesses.
Right. Yeah.
Like
exactly
a barber shop. Offer them the same tax discount that you're giving to, Boeing in Charleston.
Right. Yeah. And I think we really need to look at those incentives that, there's certain industries we really don't need to incentivize. We should, we heard that from Andy Bashir when he was here. And he was talking about some of the things they did in Kentucky, and they basically they're not trying to attract anybody who will hire people. They're trying to attract businesses that are actually, good for the community, good for the employees, and only using incentives for that. But, data centers is a prime example. You hear a lot about that. We shouldn't be incentivizing data centers at all. They need to pay their way, because again, what are they doing? They're consuming resources. They don't provide a lot of jobs. And so it's like, why would we want to incentivize businesses like that?
I can't even imagine where, and thankfully I think that we're congested enough residential property and business properties here in the West Columbia to Lexington area that I don't know that there's any space for data centers. But it's these stackable data centers that I keep hearing are what may be on the horizon for places that don't have the space available.
Right.
But an 80-acre data center employs 26 people.
Right. Yeah.
And one of those people is just sweeping. So
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Your platform also includes smart gun safety.
Right.
Gun owner?
I'm not.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay. I am. It's and ultimately it's not because I have this belief that someone's going to barge in through the door and attack me or attack my family. Of course, as a podcast host that receives death threats on a regular basis, it's certainly possible.
Goodness.
By the way, stop doing that.
Yeah,
please.
right.
Come on.
We're just talking here.
Yeah. But you know, and I think I have to attribute it to even some of the comedians. I think the one Australian guy who says, I get it. Guns are fun.
Yeah.
But I have considered over the course of the last few years, and I have actually initiated on it because I owned several handguns.
Yeah.
I sold 2 of them to Shooter's Choice in West Columbia because ultimately, how many hands do I have?
Right. Yeah.
You know, how many times can I reload something? But again, statistically, people aren't breaking into houses in the middle of the night anymore. They're going in the day when they think people aren't home.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of you having to defend your home with a firearm is becoming less and less. But the increase in the number of children that get a hold of these guns,
Right.
And either think of them as toys and play with them like that, or they're using them against other kids at schools or on playgrounds and things like that. Is that anything as far as the people you've spoken to that have they shown any concern about gun safety?
Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody today, and he just kind of mentioned that you know, the police are making more of a presence where they're doing, you know, ride-throughs in the neighborhood because there had been a shooting in that particular neighborhood, you know, I don't know, a little while back. But yeah, again, you know, we have the Second Amendment, right? You know, nobody is coming to take away your guns. You know, that's the one thing you hear a lot of talk about. Like, that's not happening. But we can do common sense gun safety, right?
Yeah.
Like you just talk about making sure your guns are secured. And we lived in a really nice neighborhood in Lexington, and one of our neighbors, you know, somebody was killed in their house because they had unsecured guns in there, and you know, somebody got a hold of one of them. And you know that you know, to me that shouldn't happen. And you know, again, I grew up in this very rural area, you know, a town of about 500 people, out in the woods. You know, everybody, you know, did a lot of hunting. You know, and so I've fired guns, and like you said, I might get it. You know, it's fun when you're shooting, you know, target practice and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you need to have an assault weapon? You know,
they talk about AR-15s, and I was like, oh yeah, assault rifle, whatever 15. And I know it's Armalite or armor, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just look at it and I go, what does that mean? And they explain it, well, it's because of the options you can attach things to it and stuff like that. And I'm like, but you're not going to hunt deer with that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, I don't know how big a round is, but I don't know. Again, quality assurance. I look at the efficiency of things and the idea of stopping an intruder with something like an AR-15 doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the likelihood is that you're more likely to hit through a wall and hit a family member than you are that individual.
Right. Yeah.
I just, you know, so from my perspective, I think a repealing of the constitutional carry here in South Carolina would absolutely be one of the things that if I was campaigning would be something that I would potentially be campaigning on, not because I'm taking away someone's rights, because I'm also looking at it from the perspective of out in public. Right. I mean, a lot of businesses around here have signs that say you can't carry in there anyway. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, I've run elections where someone's walked up to the door, seen the sign, and then had to go back to their car. And I'm like, what made you think that was okay?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And necessary, right? Yeah. I don't
State law
understand
hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Reproductive rights. I mean, that's a big one.
Right.
South Carolina is, we still currently have a 6-week abortion ban.
Right.
6 weeks is, statistically for most people that are seeking an abortion, happens well before 6 weeks. If they know, if we're looking at a plan B situation.
Right.
For those people that find out they're pregnant, that don't want to be, it's usually going to be in that 12 to 16 week corridor, that time frame. And ultimately, I don't understand why the state or any government feels as though they should have some sort of an impact on deciding what's right for women. I don't understand why they want so many children. I mean, United States is a big country, but we're the potential of climate change and things like that. We're looking at potential famine in the next 30 years from not having enough food to grow for people. And we want to throw more children into the mix. It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my personal opinion is that, if a woman is deciding about an abortion, it's between her and her doctor and her family. If she's religious, maybe, bring your religious, practice into there. But yeah, it shouldn't be the government involved in it. The government shouldn't be deciding on those things. Yeah. We talk about, bringing children into the world, but, I think that life begins at birth. Other people believe something different, right? So it's like, okay, so now we're talking what's more theological discussion about
Well, you throw in the fact that that life isn't breathed in until the baby takes the first breath.
Right.
It's like okay, so
yeah, so so again we spent a lot of focus on that aspect, but it's like, okay, when those children are born, then let's take care of them. And then, but then again, we see, the Republicans in the legislature don't want to take care of them. So it's like, I don't understand it either.
Family paid leave, having the availability of some sort of a healthcare net for, if you live below the poverty line, then Medicaid should be available.
Right.
And it shouldn't, and which also should attach to it some sort of, I don't want to say universal pay, but I mean, that's what 100 other countries across the world that don't have the amount of money that we do are doing it.
Crazy idea, right? Yeah.
South Carolina as a state, the GDP for the state of South Carolina eclipses like 30 of those countries, and they're still giving away. Yeah. They're still making sure that families are
they can figure out how to do it. Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't either.
Well, let's see. For District 89 voters who voted Republican over the last 25 years, but might be on the fence, and there should be a lot of you.
Yeah, right.
There should be a lot of you. Yeah. What is one sentence that you think could potentially convince them to vote for you over the gentleman that's been there for a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're happy with the way things are, then I would say keep voting Republican. But if you think we could do things better or do things differently, the Republicans have been in charge of the entire state government for over 20 years. So again, if you're not happy with the way things are, there's one party that's been in charge. So let's try something different.
His whole career is fixing things that are broken, right? So look, how can people get a hold of you or the campaign volunteer?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, so you can find me on social media, Joe Madge for SC on Facebook and on Instagram, and then on my website is Joe Madge for SC. So it's JoeMadgeForsC.com. So you can you can sign up to volunteer on there. You can ask me questions. You can donate to my campaign. So there's all sorts of ways you can get involved, and we're building that support. We got to do it kind of one voter at a time, but we're working on it.
You all hosted a canvassing training last week. How did that go?
Oh, it went really good. Yeah. So because you mentioned that it's a record year for having Democratic candidates. But in Lexington County, there's 11 state house seats which touch Lexington County. And, some of them are first-time candidates. Some of them have been around for a while, but some of them, they don't really know just some of the basics of how do we do these things and reach voters. So we provided a training for all the candidates were involved. So we had I think 6 or 7 of them showed up for the training, and then we had volunteers, people who want to get involved, have never done it, and so it was really well received. And so it's kind of that was kind of like the classroom training. The practical is actually going out and canvassing with somebody and learning that we use an app on our phones to do it now. We used to do it with paper, but we do it on an app. So you just need to spend a little bit of time getting familiar with the app. So that's why we've got different
I was going to say on the app,
plug in.
On the app, you mark whether or not they were home or if you talk to them,
right.
So.
Yeah, we used to use that with a clipboard and a piece of paper and, check stuff off, and then somebody had to go back in and type it in. So now it's all done pretty much instantaneously. You can leave notes in there about, if somebody asks a specific question, all those kinds of things. So, it's a great experience. I mean, especially if you do feel frustration with the government, whether it's at the national level or local level, it's a very empowering thing to do, to go out and talk to folks. So that's the kind of the message we were trying to give in that training. But I think it's very well received. I think we'll try to do some more stuff with like how to phone bank and things like that. So try to that idea is that we can kind of build up this army of people who know how to do these things. And some folks like to do it all. Some folks, no, I only want to make phone calls, or other people be like, no, I only want to knock on doors. And so you can find your ways you can help out, but once you're trained, then you can do it for anybody, and that's really the idea. We can just have this army of volunteers who can go out and help any campaign.
It's fun too.
It is, yeah. You get to meet other people, and
it's even if you're just canvassing in the neighborhood that you live in. I mean, there's bound to there's 400 houses in this neighborhood, right, or something like that. Yeah. So it's it's the opportunity to meet. And then potentially, profile your neighbors.
Yes,
it does work. Donations can be made through your website, ActBlue.
That's correct. Yeah, through ActBlue, you can write a check if you like to write checks to P.O. Box 2492, West Columbia. Zip code's 29171. That's another way you can donate as well.
Perfect. Joe Madge 4SC.com. Joe,
that's
thank
correct.
you very much. I
great.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what we'll do is we'll wrap up the show, but anything else you want to say before we do that?
No, actually, I had a question for you.
Please.
Oh, yeah. So how did you get the music from the band Cake on your for your intro or outro? Yeah. Vince DeFore, who is the trumpet player for Cake, I actually messaged him about 6 years ago because I knew Vince and John, the lead singer for Cake, when I worked at a radio station in Atlanta. Okay.
And they don't tour very much.
No, they don't. Yeah, we're trying to catch them, but it's hard to do.
Yeah, the last time I saw them actually was here at the Township.
Yeah. We missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Was it? Yeah.
It was like 3 hours.
Oh wow!
Like they must have gone through for like 3 or 4 albums.
Yeah.
But I also saw Cake in Boston, and because I don't know, we just decided we were going to fly to Boston for a weekend. It was only back in 2009. It was only $120 round trip. Yeah. So we did that, and I told Vince that we were going to be up there, so we got to go back there and hang out with him and John McCrae. And so ultimately, I messaged them, and then I messaged their management and got authorization from both of them.
Okay.
And as far as I know, Vince listens. But
that's great.
I actually have one of their albums upstairs that when I was in high school, because I was such a fan of Cake, that I actually got Vince DeFore to sign Fashion Nugget. So nice. I have that framed upstairs.
Yeah, great.
Very cool. I also have Ben Folds stuff upstairs.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I can't get Ben Folds to authorize any music.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But it's I'm glad you asked. So I think sometimes people hear that and they're like, because I use Cake, what is it, shadow stabbing for Fireflies updates.
Okay.
And then I can't. Oh, Sick of You is what I use for for the end of the show, which is
Right.
maybe a little apropos. All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate
Great.
you coming out. And
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can do this again as we get further in the campaign.
So hopefully you can interview me as as the actual state house rep.
Believe me,
in a couple months. Yeah.
My expectation is that I have all of y'all's phone numbers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Especially Jermaine. Especially Jermaine.
Yep, exactly.
Which, by the way, I guess I didn't say it before, but his birthday was on the 4th of July.
Yes, that's right.
Which was, I didn't know until I saw everybody wishing him a birthday. I was like, he didn't tell me it was his birthday.
Right. Yeah, we were out at the Peach Fest in Gilbert, and he stopped by, and everybody at our table saying happy birthday to him. So that was fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about the number of Democrats that are running.
Yeah, it's great,
and the level of competence that I see in the Democrats that made it through their primaries too. Because outstanding. I mean, not to pick out any particular ones, but even the ones that lost, I think, were outstanding.
Right. Yeah.
So,
we had a lot of great candidates, and I think if things are going to change, this is a year it's going to happen. I'm excited about the elections this year.
Absolutely agree. All right. Well, that is going to do it for episode number 314. Thank you again, Joe, for being here.
Thank you.
Links to all of our past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media are available on our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content. Visit members.theallaboutnothing.com, or you can find the link on our webpage. You can also give a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533, or you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com, or join our Discord server, links found on our webpage. Thanks for listening, everybody. You all stay safe, be kind, and
keep your hands to yourself.
The All About Nothing podcast is a product of Big Media and produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. You can follow me across social media by visiting Linktree/Barrett Gruber, and you can follow Zach King on Linktree/AAN Zach. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. To find links to our social media, podcast platforms, and merchandise to support the show, as well as past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com, or you can call our number and leave a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our sister shows. What the Pod Was That with Carrie, Zach, and myself. Welcome to Wonderland with me. Politically Speaking with Erica, Kirsten, and Emily. And Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jameel Brooks and Bill Kimmler. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and punch that notification bell. Thank you for listening, and hear us next week. The preceding podcast is solely owned by the host or hosts and is distributed by Big Media, LLC. Copyright 2026.
well, you've made it to the end. You survived the rambling, the tangents, and whatever nonsense we just subjected your ears to. Congratulations. Now that your brain is sufficiently scrambled, how about doing something productive for democracy? Before you go off to forget everything you just heard, do yourself a favor and double-check that your voter registration is actually legit at theallaboutnothing.com/voter. It's about the only way to make sure your vote counts, even if your taste in podcasts is questionable.